On this episode of Les Roll Radio, we discuss being a good training partner. This is Les Roll Radio, a combat sports podcast. I'm Kelly Shennicky.
And I'm Andrea Shennicky. Welcome to the podcast.
All right, so it's that time of the year where our camp is approaching.
Quickly.
You thought it was next week.
I literally thought it was next week.
It's in a few weeks, but it's that time of the year where our social media is nonstop camp stuff, and I'm self-aware of that. And so we're going to give you a break from that, and we're not, aside from this little intro, going to discuss camp. We are going to do a separate Les chat that will come out a little closer to camp for people attending camp with some things you may want to know.
Yeah, it'll be great.
All right. So on today's episode, we are talking about a topic I am even more passionate about now that I'm in a coaching role, and it's how to be a good training partner.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about showing up to class, but for your partner when you are drilling and live rolls, just being a good team member in general.
Yeah.
So I think the most foundational thing that we can start with is that it's important to show up with purpose. And this is nuanced because jiu-jitsu is, of course, to a certain degree, pay to play.
Pay to play in an individual sport as well, in theory.
Right. We're all adults, I assume. Most people listening to this at least are. And people have a variety of goals when they go into the gym. You have people that are really, truly there for the vibes.
And others who are trying to be professional.
And everything in between.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, if you don't show up for your partners, you also can't get anything out of it. It's transactional to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether you're drilling, doing positional sparring, rolling, your job is to also help your partner get better. It's not just about you.
Yeah.
And that is just inherent in the way jiu-jitsu functions because, again, it always involves another person. It's not fully individual. And the way we train it, unless you're watching an instructional at home alone, the way we train it in the gym is always with another person.
Mm-hmm.
And so being respectful of their time is just, I think, paramount. And you just have to remember drilling isn't downtime and it's not social time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying don't have fun.
And not at all. You can have fun.
But we can go get a beer at a brewery if we want to hang out. We don't have to put on spandex or gis or whatever.
I mean, we could do that at the brewery too if we want.
But, and I always say that, and I'm like, I know I sound like such a stick in the mud, but if I'm going to pay for a gym membership, come to a gym, dress out for a sport, show up, now I have so much more going on than I ever did before in my life. Have a toddler, like make all of these sacrifices to come to training. I want to train.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have really softened on the vibes thing personally. So I'm saying it from someone who really gets that. But stay focused, drill during the full time you're supposed to be drilling. Try not to talk, wander around, check your phone, those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like basic etiquette. It's very, very basic stuff.
I mean, even like you're having a conversation with someone, it's the same kind of etiquette. I'm not on my phone constantly while I'm trying to talk to you.
And not making eye contact, not talking to you, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a classroom setting. If something's going on, like that's totally different. I don't like really ridiculous, rigid, hierarchical bullshit. If you need to check your phone because
you're an adult
and like whatever's going on. But I mean, with few exceptions, like the point is just like generally be present and show up for your partners and like listen, don't talk through drilling, do the thing.
Yeah.
It's just so important. I think another big thing is, are you coaching, peer coaching, or are you actually just interrupting and maybe harming your partner's training progress? I think offering unsolicited advice during drilling or rolling is very problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you should ask yourself, what's my relationship to this person? Am I their coach? Even if I am their coach or a coach, am I in a coaching role at this moment?
Right. Are you there as a training partner or are you there as a coach?
Right. Are we close peers? Am I someone they trust?
Mm-hmm.
And even if all of those things are true, is it still best to come from me if I am there as a training partner? And I think we've talked a lot lately about flattening the hierarchy. That's what we did our last episode on. I think even in gyms where you have that culture of having a multitude of coaches, a lot of peer learning, etc., there are still modes of training. Like, again, like it's very different to be in like that mode of being in a coaching role versus being there for your own training. So I just would say don't always assume that you're helping. I think sometimes even well-meaning advice can come across as you know it all or you're micromanaging them. More importantly than that, though, I think it's actually not good for folks learning, because a lot of times if they are allowed the opportunity to just flail a little bit
and figure it out.
Yeah, and figure it out and work through it, they're actually going to have better learning outcomes. I mean, studies show that. That's not just anecdotal evidence from coaching. I mean, we know that from studies of learning, that if people actually struggle through it versus just being fed the information, that often that we have better outcomes. So you think you're helping, but you're actually in some ways harming.
Yeah. Is there a point, just me being curious, where they've struggled through it enough that you're like, okay, maybe I help? Even as from a coaching standpoint, because I've had a really hard time deciding when to step in to help. But I know like you do a great job of letting people kind of work through it on their own.
I tell them try at least 3 times and to do it without talking to their partner.
Okay.
And that's each. And then if you really don't know what's going on, then call me over for help. I think there's also a difference between like you feel very disoriented in terms of body and space and you need some like orientation with that. Like you're like, wait, was it outside leg? You know, like, you know, going around here, like, you know, maybe you don't understand what de la Hiva is. And someone's like, yeah, outside. You know, like, I think like sometimes small cues aren't a huge deal. But even then, I think most people can kind of just flail through it and figure it out versus like not executing it well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you physically don't know where like your body needs to be in space when you're drilling something, it's going to be hard for you to even struggle through that if you're, you know, supposed to be in de la Hiva and you're like doing some interpretive dance around their legs instead, because you just like don't understand that conceptually, versus like you're in de la Hiva and you don't quite have the kazushi or the off balancing right to like hit the sweep you just learned. That you can probably struggle through a little bit better. So I think like if your training partner can like cue you in like small ways, it's not always as big of a deal. But I would say even then you should just ask a coach. And as a coach, I usually give them, like I said, you know, a couple like tries or at least encourage that. But if you're just like, wow, they fully don't understand the position, I would jump in sooner.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because it's hard to even like fail at it if you're not even in it.
Yeah, if you don't really.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what's something small that you appreciate about a drilling partner that kind of gets overlooked at times?
I think actually like people who are good at modulating intensity.
Yeah.
And also there's a nuance between sometimes people don't fully drill the thing and they should.
Okay, yeah.
They don't know it that well that they probably should be doing it. And then sometimes you have people who want to finish every single choke or arm bar or whatever and they don't need to. And sometimes that's frustrating too, where
like getting choked 10 times.
Yeah, like, and that's also nuanced depending upon the position, but like if you're doing a particular arm bar, it's like, do you have the control? Do you have the entry right? We all know at a certain point of experience, like how to hyperextend an elbow. Do you need to fully tap your training partner in drilling every single time?
Right. Okay.
So, I mean, people who kind of are able to kind of understand that balance. I think those are the people. What about you?
I would say something similar. No, yeah, I would say the same thing, honestly. Yeah.
So kind of going back to what we were talking about in terms of being the person who's maybe unsolicited coaching, you know, doing some peer coaching. A lot of times that is driven by the flip side of things where a partner is seeking that out, right? Because they weren't paying attention potentially, which I think is very different from every single person has times where they are watching and they just don't understand, or maybe you just have like an occasional moment because we're human. I mean, you have ADHD.
Yeah.
Right. And so you were generally trying to pay attention, whatever, but you may have a moment where you just like kind of blank on something in particular or whatever. But we also all know those training partners who every single time you break and you go back to drill, they're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Every single time. And I don't know if that is they are literally never paying attention or if it's a almost defense mechanism because they don't want to try and fail at the thing. So they want to be like retaught it.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense to me.
And so, I mean, I try to be sensitive to that, but that's really, really tough because again, you're harming your own learning because you're not trying to do the thing. You're trying to be retaught it in the moment. And you are, even if the person is kind and generous, putting a coaching burden on your partner potentially that they didn't ask for.
Yeah.
right? If you're like asking them to reteach every single move every single time. So then they're both a drilling dummy and they're a coach. And we know when we work with those people, we typically get less reps in ourselves.
It's true. Yeah.
Right. And that's tough. And this is not, I just want to like emphasize, this is not accounting for people who just genuinely need help. You are new. Maybe you're not new, but this particular thing was a struggle and you were doing your best. We've all had real shit days. We dissociate, whatever. I mean, like, good people need help.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the people who are just like consistently going straight to treating their training partner like a second coach.
Yeah.
And that not being fair.
That is not fair.
So, yeah, I think both sides are important. Not over coaching someone in an unsolicited manner, but not expecting your peer to coach you through everything as well.
Yeah.
Does not mean you should not ask for help. It does not mean you should be afraid to ask for help, but just really trying to not default to that and trying to work through things as best as you can.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense to me. Has there been a point where you catch yourself relying too much on your training partner to reteach you?
I think I am not a super visual learner. Jiu-jitsu is taught in a visual way, right? Where you're watching technique and then trying to do it. That's why people who use a lot of words are good for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can really listen more than watch even. But then I also have to do it with my body. And so I actually think the way I learn, the answer is probably no. I have, even early on at white belt, actually always had the opposite problem, which is maybe why I'm advocating for this so strongly in this episode, where I've had really good, lovely training partners, but that consistently always tried to kind of like teach me or micromanage me. And it was well-intentioned and it was meant to be helpful, but I needed to work through it to get it. And a lot of times I knew how to do the thing. You've been my training partner and you've seen that with coaches before. We've had situations where someone's like, no, this is how it's done. And I'm like, I literally just hadn't moved my leg there yet.
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about because we've had those situations where I'm like, what the fuck? Because I
like
really...
you just didn't give me time to do it.
You literally didn't give me time to do it or you just glanced over at a weird moment or whatever. I really have to work through things. So I don't think I've ever defaulted in that way to just being like fully reliant. The only time that was really not the case was I went to a seminar, a leg lock seminar, and it was when I was training at mostly a gi school that taught like literally 0 leg locks. Mm-hmm. And I did not understand like very basic positions. And it was Bobby Emmons. Bobby literally came over and like physically just like moved my body into the right positions in the most non-creepy way. But like he was lovely. But I was very reliant on him in that seminar because we were not like speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Because I just did not have even like, I was very new to jiu-jitsu period, but like I didn't even have like the basics of leg entanglements to be able to follow what was going on.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a lack of him being a good instructor. It was just literally I couldn't speak the same language. So maybe in that situation, but in general, no. How about you?
Maybe a little bit. I feel like sometimes I rely on you to help me when we're learning. So like when we went to like Jacob's class or something, or when we went to some of his seminars in the garage. Oh yeah. I like literally couldn't understand what was happening with the games we were playing.
I don't really remember that, but yeah.
And I just needed help. And you kind of had to like explain it to me mid-game what I was trying to do.
Yeah. So. I also probably, I know this wasn't part of the question, I sometimes correct you and you don't ask to be corrected. And it's just because I think I'm in coaching mode and I think I don't have a filter with you because I'm just like, I always say I'm like a Slavic like wrestling coach with you where I'm just like, I will make you fucking great. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like almost the hardest on you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really like in a loving way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I don't know, but sorry.
It's okay.
So moving on, another thing we wanted to talk about is the idea of training for developing and getting better and not just winning. And I think that this is something that impacts, again, both you and your partners tremendously. But if you're rolling every round like it's the world finals, that's rough. If you're also, rolling or drilling fully on autopilot the whole time and just for the vibes, that's really tough. Both those things are hard to work with. And, I often say to people, like, one of the reasons I hate like wrist locks, for example, is because I think like one of our goals in training isn't to win, but it's to get better. And I'm always like wondering, like, how are you getting better at jiu-jitsu if you're just trying to tap your partners with like easy taps? Mm-hmm. And it's not that I'm a hater. Like would love for you to be able to do them. Wrist lock some bitch in a tournament, like go for gold. That's great. But like, you know, I'm also really hard on people, and I love leg entanglements for like falling back for leg entanglements instead of passing the guard. Like my thing that I always tell everyone is do the hard things because we're here to get better, not to win. And you can make different choices in a tournament about winning. But if you're just working to try to tap people, like quick, easy taps, like that's kind of hard. Like what are you getting out of it and what are your partners learning from it? And again, the same thing with the intensity. Yeah, that's really tough.
Yeah, I thought about that this weekend. I went to an open mat, and I feel like I kind of rolled on autopilot because I hadn't gone to an open mat in a really long time that wasn't ours. And so I was just kind of nervous, and I was just nervous to roll with anybody. And I rolled with a lot of people, but I just kind of like lived.
I mean, how much of that was you didn't want to get hurt? You have some lingering injuries versus you didn't care.
Yeah, it wasn't that I didn't care. But I just thought in that moment, I'm like, am I being a good training partner for other people? I was being a good person to myself, like taking care of my injuries, but was I being good for other people? I would like to think still yes, but it was something I was questioning.
I think the self-reflection is probably healthy and leads you to your answer.
Yeah.
Which is probably that you were being a good training partner if you're being that thoughtful and even asking that question. That's my guess.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So along those lines, like how can we actually build better rounds? So talking about kind of like live training, because I think, you know, it happens in drilling too. Like I always say, like, I'd rather drill with a white belt or a purple belt, but never a blue belt, because like they're sometimes like literally not letting you just like drill moves.
Yeah, like if you're trying to pass the guard, but then they're just re-guarding the whole time and not letting you literally
and you're
drill.
like, it's a literal drill. Or like, you know, you're trying to do an arm bar and you're with like someone much stronger than you, and they're like not letting you arm drag them or like whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
And you're just like, can you please like let me just drill this without actually fighting you?
Like we're literally drilling.
But so it does happen. My point is it does happen also in drilling, but like I think live rolling is where ego is most likely to show up, as we were kind of talking about. But I also think it's where like really great partners thrive. And I think, you know, the ways you can build a better round, you can respect if someone wants to flow roll, so you, or if they're managing an injury. So, you know, part of being a good training partner is not just on you, it was on the other people at that open mat to accommodate you to a certain degree, right?
I did have quite a few, almost over half of them asked if I was harboring any injuries.
Yeah, which is very nice. Also, though, knowing if someone can't modulate, it's okay to not roll with them.
Yes.
You don't ever owe someone a round at the cost of your safety. And I think this is a really important point, that jiu-jitsu is only a thing that's going to work long term when it's mutually beneficial. As we talked about at the very beginning, it takes two to do anything in jiu-jitsu. So if you were only chasing rounds that serve your goals, tough rounds, comp training type rounds, maybe like only the black belts, the big names in the room, whatever, you can't be surprised when others stop making space for you, because we have to have reciprocity. And that means sometimes you have to drill or roll with a newer person or a slower person or an older person or a less flexible person or whatever, an injured person, even when you want to go hard. And I think it's that goodwill that breeds over time a really strong team culture. So you shared something that you kind of considered a regret. A regret I have is a few years ago, I was getting ready for either Master Worlds or Worlds, I don't remember. And one of the kids, I was trying to roll hard rounds. I was mostly rolling with you also because I didn't want to get injured. And also you were my hardest round at that particular gym. And I said no to one of the kids that wanted to roll with me. We had already said we were going to roll together. So it wasn't disingenuous. Like I had my next roll set up, but a kid, a literal kid who was in class, who I'd rolled with before, asked me to roll. That is a vulnerable and hard thing for that kid to do, I'm sure. And I said no. And the coach was very nice about saying, hey, she's actually getting ready for Worlds, so she's going to be going really, really hard the next couple of weeks. Like, it was something that was like respected in the training room.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was made to feel bad about it. I feel like a piece of shit.
But that's like a personal...
Yeah, I'm not okay with that. Like in hindsight, like I'm not Elizabeth Clay. This is not my profession. I was trying to take that seriously. It was and is not more important than that kid. And I very deeply regret that. I would never do that again, even if I was getting ready for a really big competition. So that's where reciprocity comes in. And, you know, you can't always, your training is incredibly important. It is, I've also had sometimes people, this happens to women a lot, where women always get paired with the new women.
Yeah.
And then they complain. It's not that they mind. Like, I like helping, but why am I helping every single class? I want to go hard. I've had that happen too. We've talked about it on the podcast. past where I have said, I've been getting ready for a competition and I've been paired with the new person in all of the weeks leading up to my competition when I'm wanting to go really hard. That sucks. So like there's balance there, right? Like, I mean, hopefully your coach is kind of like watching that and paying attention and understands your goals, but reciprocity, just like it's everything, and ensuring that rounds are mutually beneficial and that you're there for all of your training partners. Because when you are that injured person or you are that older person, you know, you're not going to be that kid again, but it goes both ways. You're probably going to be in that person's shoes at one point where you're in a more vulnerable space and you want training partners, and imagine people saying no to you because you're not, you know, a good enough role, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling someone when you don't want to roll with them. If it's a safety thing, that's different. But if it's because they're not a hard enough round, I would also question if you know what to do in a round to make the best of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So very much a regret of mine, for sure. Is there anything in terms of being a good training partner that you think we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I feel like we covered it pretty well.
I think the only thing I would add is also just showing up at all. Again, pay to play sport. You are an adult. Your autonomy, your goals are really important. But show up for other people too, so that they're there for you when you need them to show up. And sometimes that means going in when other people are comp prepping and you're not. Sometimes that means just going in when you're not in the mood or the weather's nice outside. The gym thrives on the training partners that show up for one another. And even if you're, let's say, like out with injury, you can still learn by showing up. So showing up, being part of that community, offering something to your training partners is incredibly important. None of that is saying self-sacrifice. You know, take care of yourself, have balance in your life. Jiu-jitsu isn't everything, but just recognize again that jiu-jitsu is meant to be mutually beneficial, and being a good training partner is inherently working towards making sure that your training is mutually beneficial.
I like it.
All right. So just to wrap things up, you know, every time you're repping with someone, every time you're rolling with someone, basically every exchange, you are really building trust or breaking it with your training partners. And, you know, being a good training partner is so much more than how much jiu-jitsu you know. It's about being aware, communicative, generous with your effort. And the most important thing here, I think you need to hear, is you don't have to be the best person in the room, the best at jiu-jitsu. You just want to be someone that people want to work with again. That is far more important than being the most skilled person, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, questions for each other. So my question for you is, what is one thing you wish people would stop doing during drilling?
One of my biggest things is during drilling is people do a couple reps and then they stop and sit there. For me, what I always did was you drill until the coach says, you know, how about everybody do one more or whatever, or let's all meet up again. Just keep drilling. Like, why stop? Use that time wisely.
That was actually mine.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
No, that's so good. I think it's kind of disrespectful to everyone. Like, it's disrespectful to the coach because you're like, I asked you to use this time to do this thing and do this thing. You never, but it's mostly disrespectful to you and your training partner. Like, you're disrespecting yourself because the amount of time, even if you're like, I get it, I've been drilling this for 10 million years. You really haven't. And reps are so important. And that time that you have, like, how often do you have a person dedicated to just drilling?
You don't.
I mean, it's so rare and so precious. So just take it and use all of the drilling time. Even if you feel like you know it, get to know it better. Yeah. So no, I completely agree with you. My other one would probably be the people who the second you're asked to drill, just go, I don't know what I'm doing. And they do, but they're just like not willing to be vulnerable. I'm like, just try it. Just try it.
Well, my question for you is actually going back to camp. I know we weren't going to talk about it anymore.
Oh, you big liar.
But this is the end. So
okay.
What are you most looking forward to next 2 weekends from now? Not next weekend.
I love that we have people that have been coming. I say this every year. It's the same thing. I love that we have like a community that we see every single year. We have people that have come from the very beginning. This is our fourth. Yes, fourth camp. And we've had people from year one who come every single year, and they're kind of like a dedicated little crew. Like, some of them knew each other before, but a lot of these people met each other at camp.
Right.
And that's really cool. But it's always the new people that come in that I find the most exciting, and seeing which ones kind of, you want everyone to like integrate into that community and keep coming back. Not just to camp, but I like to see that group goes to the Queer Trans tournament in Seattle. Like, I like seeing that this community is bigger than camp and it's bigger than Les Roll Radio.
Yeah.
That it bridges out.
Awesome. I like that.
How about you?
Well, I'm pretty excited about the super fights and that there are cash prizes this year, which was a new announcement that came out today, which I guess would be yesterday for you guys. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very important to us that this isn't something we make money off of. So as we looked at, how things shook out as we got closer, we want all of the money to either go to camp next year, so bringing in more instructors, flying people in, and or going directly back to the people who are attending. So we are going to be giving cash prizes for the super fights. I'm hoping next year that we can make it like an invitational
Okay.
sort of thing. So where we kind of have still a cap on the number of fights, but maybe we even have brackets potentially instead. I mean, like, it's hard with weights and belts and all that, but gi and no gi. So I'm thinking about those things and how we can incorporate that.
I like that. That's cool.
And I still think the long-term goal is to have a queer trans tournament somewhere in the Midwest at some point. I think we have a lot of folks on board with that. It's just ensuring that we don't pull anyone away from the efforts that are currently happening, in the Pacific Northwest and other parts of the country to run those tournaments. They have good numbers. They are growing. We don't want to pull from that.
Yeah.
It's a small community, so we're trying to be mindful of that, but that's a long-term goal.
All right. I like that.
All right. We had a few listener questions and then we'll be done. So what is your best advice for someone who's nervous about asking higher belts to drill or roll?
I'm so awkward, so I don't have like the best advice, but what I would try to say is that they are people too. And if there's a weird vibe about rolling with higher belts at the gym you're at, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
So, just that's something to kind of keep an eye on. But the higher belts are people too. Usually. So
that's funny because I usually hear people say white belts are people too, not higher belts are people too.
Higher belts are people, most of them.
Yeah, I think if anyone is a douche or your gym is douchey about that, you may be in a cult. So I agree with you. Red flag. And then I would just say I am very introverted. Have I ever told you this story? And Wasim was teaching a class, one of our friends who's a black belt, and he had everyone. He went in order and he was like, pick your partner that you want. And he went through a bunch of people. And I was like, I think the first of the white belts. I was a white belt. And
was it the white belts picking first or the black belts?
Black belts, because he started at just like the front of the line.
Okay.
And not that there were like a lot of black belts in class, right? He may have been the only one even. I picked him.
Was he an option?
He didn't say he wasn't. It was for rolling or like live or like positional sparring or something. I can't remember.
Did you catch him off guard?
I did. But like, in hindsight, I'm like, the balls that I was just like, hey, black belt coach, I'm actually going to pick you.
You're like, why didn't anyone pick Wasim? What the hell?
Well, also, I was and am like anxious about who I pair up with.
And you know him.
And I know him and I felt really comfortable with him. And I don't think there were many, if any, women in that class. So I was like, I want to be with him. I tell you that story to say that was very audacious and I survived that. So just ask the higher belt to roll.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah. And if they're weird about it, then that's probably not someone you want to train with anyway.
Yeah. Well, this kind of leads into our next question, the next listener question, which is, what are red flags when visiting a gym? If you have to ask the higher belts to roll, or if
you might be in a cult,
or if the higher belt are the ones that have to ask you, like you can't ask them.
Dude, my friend, I have so many fucking red flags. I'm sorry. Like, I did a whole TikTok series on that for a while. I need to go back to that. It was actually like the series was like coaches things like your students are afraid to tell you that they want you to know, but it go like red flags become a part of that. We have a red flag series and a green flag series actually on social media, Let's Roll Radio, on Instagram, so you can see some of them that we post. But like, I could do 10 episodes on red flags.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how to approach this question. But someone did ask this, and so I want to give you like some things. But for me, it is like cult-like vibes, even if it's like a positive, cheery cult.
Yeah, they
right?
have those.
They have cults in lovely places, I'm sure, in Hawaii, whatever.
I want to be one of those.
Cults can look nice, but just like, that's my biggest thing is like cult-like principles, because when you have cults, you have the system for abuse of power to run rampant. You are very, very reliant in those systems on people not abusing their power.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to ask of humans who are very fallible, right? And can make mistakes. So my biggest thing is just like, look out for the cult-like things. I mean, like gyms that seem to like replace like real mental health with training.
Yeah.
Like jiu-jitsu means a whole lot to me, but the whole like jiu-jitsu saved my life or like whatever sort of vibes is like, it's too much. Seek therapy. Because I find like, do you know what I mean? Like it's where like the gym itself or the coach is like a god.
Yeah, like I will save you.
Like this gym, this community, this coach saved my life, changed my life.
I mean, unless they literally pulled you from a freaking car fire.
Friends, I met my wife at jiu-jitsu. I wouldn't have a child if it wasn't for jiu-jitsu. I would not have divorced my Republican husband if it wasn't for jiu-jitsu. Like jiu-jitsu is very important to me. I coach and I spend the majority of my time not working my corporate job doing jiu-jitsu. I watch instructionals every single day. And I am here to tell you that if your gym is that like, we are a family, you should probably run.
I mean, I like
it's not a family. I love all of them.
Yeah.
If you come to my party, it is almost all jiu-jitsu people. Our wedding was almost all jiu-jitsu people.
Yeah.
But like, I pay a membership. Well, I don't, but you know what I mean? Like we're customers.
Yes, it
is a transactional relationship. It is a professional relationship, even when you are friends with the people. So
you can have good community and still be a customer.
And I would say that your community is better for it.
Yes, absolutely.
Fact. So I went off the deep end there, and I probably didn't really meaningfully answer your question. I would say there are 10 million different red flags. I could write a whole dissertation on it, clearly.
Maybe you should.
Maybe I should. I've probably written some Substacks on it. But what I would say, like, again, just I want to emphasize is cult-like vibes. Watch out for cult-like vibes. And they are not all negative cults. If anything, the ones that are dangerous are the ones that look really alluring. And watch out for gyms that try to profit off of marginalized communities, women, queer people, etc.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. What do we have coming up?
Oh, our camp is April 17th through the 19th. There is also a Columbus IBJJF in May. We're doing a really pathetic job here. I didn't write it down, but you are planning on registering, and we at least have one competitor from our gym going, so we will be there. So if you happen to know when IBJJF Columbus is in May, good on you. We are not sure what weekend, but we'll be there, hopefully, right? If we figure out the date.
Yeah.
We're not going to be at Nashville. Those may be the big ones that are coming up. We'll just keep you updated on the next podcast for any other events. But if you see us at any of these things, say hi.
Yes, please do.
All right. Where can people find us?
People can find the podcast, Let'sRollRadio.com, and at Let's Roll Radio on TikTok, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Instagram. And Discord link is in the bio. And you can find me, Andrea Shenegui, at ShenegUA, and my wife, Kelly, at Kelly Shenegui on TikTok, Blue Sky, and Instagram.
All right. Until next time.
Bye.